4. The St Charles Tavern. The St Charles Tavern, how he registers his name, Wallace is afraid of a fire. He breakfasts at the St. Charles and gets up in silence. The bill of fare? Fried bullfrogs. I went to the St. Charles Tavern to hunt up the quarters for the night, as I had been told it was the best in the city, and I was determined to have the best of everything while I was on my travels. Someone had pointed the tavern out to me in the daytime. As it was a little way off, I soon came to it, and went up to the broad steps up front, and then into a room where several men were putting their names down in a book. I saw a fellow standing behind the railing at the desk the landlord was in, as I wanted to see him. He laughed a little, though I didn't see anything funny in the question, and he told me the landlord was out just then, but that he would attend my business I might have with him. I told him that I wanted a room to sleep in and as much grub as I could eat as long as I stayed in New Orleans. Certainly, he said. You can be accommodated. Will you please register your name? I took the pen and wrote down Bigfoot Wallace in the first column, Buffalo Bull Ranch, Texas in the second, and Old Virginia in the third. Then the clerk, or whoever he was, struck something that sounded like a clock, and the fellow jumped up to the corner of the room and came up to where we were. Show this gentleman to number 395, and he handed the waiter a little piece of candle that didn't look to me nigh long enough to last us through the 395 rooms. But the whole tavern was lighted up with little brass knobs that made every place as bright as day. The waiter took me up one pair of stairs, and then up another, and then another, until I thought I was a fair way to get to heaven at last, provided my breath didn't fail me. When we wandered through about half of a dozen lanes and alleys until we came to number 395, the waiter unlocked the door, lit my candle, and told me good night. Stop a minute, friend, I said. If this tavern should catch fire tonight, how am I to find my way back to where we started from? Oh, he said, there's no danger of fire, for it's all built of rock, and inside it's insured. The devil trust it, I said. With the gas stuff burning all over it, if it can set fire to a brass knob, it can set fire to rock, too. I'd rather trust myself with a dry prairie with a stiff norther blowing, and the grass waist high, and hostile Indians all around. My chances of being roasted alive wouldn't be half as good if they were up here in number 395. Besides, I said, I'm not insured. Well, he said, if the house catches fire, you've got to hold on that string hanging down there with a tassel on the end of it, which rings a bell, and I'll come up and show you the route down. Look here, my friend, I said. You can't satisfy me in that way. This is room 395. I suppose there's at least 395 more of them. And when 790 bells are all ringing at the same time, how are you going to tell which one is mine? You might as well try to tell the bellowing of a particular buffalo bull from a gang of 10,000. No, sir, you stay up here with me, and when the row commences, if you're lucky enough to find your way down, I won't be far behind you. Well, he said, when my watch is up, which will be in about half an hour, I'll come back. Enough said, I replied, and I'll stand treat in the morning. So I turned into bed, and in 5 minutes I was fast asleep. I never knew whether the fellow came back or not, but I suppose he did, for he claimed the treat offered me the first thing in the morning. I gave him a brand new 50-cent piece, and he said he'd take the job by the week and half the pennies. So I engaged him regularly at 25 cents a night, and considered it a dirt cheap at that. I made an early start in the morning, for I knew I had a crooked way of travel and a dim trail to follow. And about 9 o'clock I found myself in the room where I had registered my name the night before, and feeling considerably snappish after my long tramp. I inquired of one of the porters sitting here how long it will be till breakfast. He said any time I wanted it, and showed me the way into the breakfast room. It was almost as large as a small prairie, and instead of a long table, as we have in our taverns at home, there were at least 40 or 50 little round ones scattered all over it. Being a rather social disposition, although I've lived in much of the woods by myself, seeing a tolerably jovial little party of ladies and gentlemen sitting around these tables, I walked up and took a seat with them. I saw in a minute I wasn't welcome, for the gentleman looked as ill-natured as a sulky bull, and the ladies all tittered. But I pretended not to notice it and called one of the waiters who was running around to bring me a pound or so of beefsteak and the condiments. At this, one of the men spoke up. I presumed I was under mistake, that this was a private table. Yes, sir, said I. I am. I presumed you were a gentleman, and it is not to be a private table. As I say, it's the first one I ever saw in a public house. However, I continued, I've no wish to force my company where it isn't wanted, and I got up and took a seat at another table. If a man had spoken to me at a tavern in Texas the way that chap did, I would have introduced him to old Butch at once. But thinks maybe things are different here, and I bothered myself no more about it. There was nothing to eat on the table where I was taking seat but a plate of butter and a bowl of sugar. But in a minute or so, the waiter stepped up and handed me a paper. I took it, folded it up, and laid it on the table. My friend, says I'm remarkable hungry just now, and I read that after I get something to eat, if you would say anything special in it. After a little while, he says, What do you have for breakfast, sir? Well, I answered, anything that's fat and juicy. What have you get cooked? If you read the bill of fare, sir, you can see for yourself. Well, let's have it, said I. That's it that you have folded up and laid on the table there, he replied. Oh, yes, said I. I understand now. And I picked it up, and the first thing I saw on it was Café de Latte. And that's late enough for it, too, heaven knows, I said, for I'm used to taking a quarter cup every morning, just at daybreak. And what else, sir? Said the waiter, and I read on. Pâté de foie gras. Some sort of herbs, I thought, and I never went high on greens, especially for breakfast. I found most of the names and the things of this bill of fare were French, or some other foreign lingo, and they were all Greek to me, but to make the waiter believe I knew well enough what they were, only I wasn't partial to that sort of grub, I told him to bring me some of the crapple fricassee and the gumbo filet, and I wish I may never take another chaw of tobacco if I did not bring me a plateful of fried bullfrog legs, and another one full of their spawn, just the same sort of slimy, ropey stuff you see around the edges of shallow ponds. I might have known that everything French had a frog in some shape or other, just as certain as chili pepper is found in everything the Mexicans cook. However, I made out my tolerable breakfast on other things, but would have been much better satisfied if I had 4 or 5 pounds of roasted buffalo meat and marrow gut,